Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you are watching this video. This video is on MERLO, which stands for Meaning Equivalent Reusable Learning Objects. And the title of the presentation is Teacher Professional Development for the Teaching of Mathematics using MERLO items in South African schools. This research was conducted by Dr. Lydia Adesanya, a doctoral student within the University of Pretoria, and I myself, Marien Graham, Professor Marien Graham. I was her sole supervisor for her doctoral study. Just some background on me. I am currently a full professor at the University of Pretoria in Faculty of Education, University of Pretoria. I have a doctoral degree in mathematical statistics, so I do view myself as a statistical expert. I've co-authored some books and some book chapters and also some book chapters. My most well-known book is with my doctoral supervisor, Professor Chakraborty from the University of Alabama. It's on non-parametric statistical process control. I also serve on editorial advisory boards. Currently, I'm on this one, but I'm also editor for many special issues and co-editor of many special issues for many journals, and I do reviews for many journals. I have published over 100 articles in peer-reviewed, mostly international journals. I regularly present my findings at national and international conferences, and I have supervised over 20 doctoral and over 50 master's students. So as I said, this study was conducted with one of my doctoral students who graduated recently, Dr. Adesanya. So what did we do? Of course, these slides, I'm not going to read all of this. Let me talk about this. You all know TIMS, the Trends in International Maths and Science Study. Now, as you know, South Africa, every time the TIMS results come out, South Africa in terms of mathematics and science, we are basically last or bottom from last, or, we are really at the bottom. So we need to look at what we can do to enhance mathematical teaching and learning of mathematics and science in South Africa. So, within a South African context, Dr. Adesanya and I were interested in looking at professional development of teachers, especially concerning their assessment practices in mathematics. So, and this was all in light of the TIMS 2019 results. We focused, of course, on mathematics, not on science, but one can also conduct a similar study on science. So all of this is done, as the fourth bulleted point shows out, because the successful implementation of effective teaching strategies within the classroom stands as a critical objective for both teachers and educational researchers, and of course, any other stakeholder. Okay, so just what did we do? So MERLO is the first two letters ME is for meaning equivalence. So what we want to do, and we'll show you some examples, is let's say you're teaching fractions. And the example today, you'll see the fraction is 7/28. The question is, how many ways can you represent it so it has meaning equivalence? Also, another term we're going to use is surface similarity. In how many ways can you represent 7 over 28? So it has surface similarity, so it looks similar, but it does not have meaning equivalence. So let's just look at the 4 quadrants of MERLO. Quadrant 1. This is where, if you have your target statement, which is something like 7 over 28, a fraction, firstly, you can have quarter 1, where you give the learners something that has meaning equivalence and surface similarity, and we'll show you an example. Then we have quarter 2, which only has meaning equivalence but not surface similarity. That is the one you want learners to identify. You want them to identify, when does something have meaning equivalence? That is the key in the conceptual understanding of mathematical learning. When does something have meaning equivalence? So Q2 is the important quadrant. Q3, so this is where there's no meaning equivalence, but you do have surface similarity. Again, we'll show an example. And lastly, Q4, quadrant 4, there's no meaning equivalence and there's no surface similarity, right? Okay, so why do we have these pictures? For Q1, where you give learners something that has both meaning equivalence and surface similarity, we have a little dustbin here because you can chuck that item because it's too obvious. I mean, if it has both meaning equivalence and surface similarity, research has shown this is too obvious. So this exists, but we typically do not present it to the learners. So there is a dustbin, so you throw this out. Now Q2, where we have meaning equivalence only, this is the thumbs up. This is the one you want learners to identify. Q3, we only have surface similarity. There is a question mark sort of in someone's head to throw them off. It's called a distractor. And Q4, where you neither have meaning equivalence or surface similarity, there's a big cross because you have nothing. Nothing ties you back to your target statement. So what is the significance of our study? So MERLO has been validated, tested, and implemented across different countries: Australia, Canada, Israel, Italy, Russia, and the Netherlands. But until this study, MERLO has not been used within African countries to date. Dr. Adesanya and I are the first to do this. Our research methodology: we have, of course, a theoretical framework, but you will need to read the proceedings for the details on MDT. I do not have time. I have limited time. I cannot go through this theoretical framework with you. Same with the paradigm. Research method: it was participatory action research, qualitative in nature. We followed a very exploratory research design. Now, the participants, of course, you heard we were 2 researchers, myself and my doctoral student, but we only had 5 senior phase South African mathematics teachers participating. And why? Because of COVID. We started our study with many, many more teachers pre-COVID, and then COVID came. And teachers were very hesitant to participate. We mentioned it was participatory action research, participate in person in our workshops, and thus many withdrew. We were only left with 5 teachers willing to, during the initial stages of COVID, to meet in person for workshop training. So, of course, the limitation of our study is we only have 5 teachers. Data gathering, we observed classes, we had field note observations, we had reflective writing, we had focus group discussions, we had handouts, we had workshops, we did it all, right? And the data analysis, because it was qualitative, was thematic. Okay, look, there's a lot going on here. Of course, you'll have the proceedings to go through this. Of course, you can also pause on a slide. Let me jump to, here is one example. And what I will do, I want to explain this MERLO example. After I've explained it, you can always come back to the video, pause the video, and look whether you can figure out this example on your own. Let's just quickly go through this. Here's an example of a MERLO item. So let's say it's a fraction you are explaining, and it's 7 over 28. Now look at this. We have Q2, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Remember I said we do not use Q1 because when it's both meaning equivalent and surface similar in surface, we throw that out. Q2 is the quadrant that we want the learners to identify. So we actually usually put 2 or 3 Q2 items. And then, of course, we have Q3 and Q4. So how does it work? This example. If the fraction is 7 over 28, remember Q3 only has surface similarity. So look, 9 over 48 looks similar to 7 over 28. So there's only surface similarity. Q4 has neither surface similarity or meaning equivalent. So you can see it doesn't look similar because it's a picture of 4 bars with 3 of them shaded, but 3 out of 4 is 75%. So it doesn't have meaning equivalent or surface similarity. So what do we want learners to identify? We want them to identify Q2s, the 2 Q2 statements. So we want them to identify that 7 over 28 is 25%. That is correct. That has meaning equivalence, but not surface similarity. And the same with this Q2 at the bottom left. 7 over 28 is 0.25. So we have meaning equivalence, but not surface similarity. So we want learners to identify Q2. And they must also say why they chose Q2. So they must identify items with meaning equivalence, but not surface similarity. So in conclusion, we had a lot of workshops. We taught South African teachers MERLO. They were very excited. They felt it would make a change in learners getting a deeper conceptual understanding of mathematical concepts. But of course, I mentioned we only had 5 teachers, which is a major limitation. So future studies should consider larger sample sizes. Our last bulleted point, Dr. Adesanya and I are currently looking at presenting online professional development courses in MERLO for South African teachers. Of course, there's some references. I do want to show you we already have one publication on MERLO within a South African context. In this publication, we looked at effective communication of learning intentions and success criteria in mathematics classrooms within South Africa. This is a very interesting read. And finally, if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. Thank you for your time and for watching this video. I hope it was meaningful. I do think our research is very valuable.